I don't know, but what?
Last one here. That'll never happen again.
So we're just waiting for our tech staff to get our recording equipment ready to go. We'll be ready to start in just 1 second.
Hopefully.
No word from him usually means it crashed, so hold on for a second. Sometimes he has to reboot it. And, yeah, he said you're good.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our work session for Monday, May 19th. And on our work sessions, we do enjoy public participation, the public being here, but we do not engage in public comment or public discussion during these work session events. And we're going to go ahead and start off with our very large group of employee introductions. This is very exciting.
Good
So
morning.
turning over to Terry Wilcox.
Yes, sir. We are playing a little bit of catch up on introductions. Hopefully we won't have a large group like this again for a while, but hey, it might be good if we do, right? We have a bunch of new outstanding employees, and I'm going to start with Jim Scheid to introduce his department.
Good morning, Council. We've got one employee from several different divisions to introduce today. Some of them have been here a while already, and we're just getting caught up on introducing them to you. Some of them are new, and actually I haven't even met them yet. So I'll let them introduce themselves, but I'll start with Mike Aratt. He is our city forester, new position that we added this year, and they're doing great things for the city. But I'll let Mike introduce himself and tell you a little bit about himself.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, Mike Aratt, city forester. Spent most of my career in the private sector, and I'm excited to be working in the public sector. Lots of stuff to do. Thanks.
Welcome aboard.
And Kyle Gray with our Parks and Special Worker position.
Kyle, excited to be here working for the city.
That was perfect.
I don't know
Kyle.
if he could have actually gotten a shorter speech, but good effort.
And Mike Leahy with our Streets Division.
Good morning, Michael Leahy, Public Works, Street Division worker. I'm excited to work here for the city. I come from Gunnison, Colorado, which is a really small, rural community, which meant a lot, at least for me it did. So having an opportunity to give back to the community gives me a really strong sense of belonging. So I look forward to working with you guys and learning a whole bunch. Thank you.
Excellent. Welcome.
And last but not least, Stephen Lee with Trash Recycle.
Thank you. As he said, my name is Stephen Lee, and moved here from Lancaster, California about 9 years ago. Lived in Montrose for 9 years now, and really love it here. So it's a great opportunity to get to work with the city. I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Excellent. Welcome.
Perfect. Thank you, Council.
Good morning. I am happy to introduce Heather Watson. Some council members have met Heather. She's our new operations assistant in the city manager's office. So she works closely with Bill Bell, the city manager, and me as the deputy city manager. So staff and council and the public can reach out to her if you're ever trying to reach us. And Heather, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning. My name is Heather Watson. I am a longtime native of the Montrose County. Of course, I was born and raised here. Hobbies include photography and my little hobby farm that I have outside of town.
It's always nice to meet another actual native. It's like there's, I think, 8 of us. So, well, welcome aboard.
We'll skip around. Okay. Hi again, also me. I am happy to introduce Landon, am I going to do this right? Iacovetto? Iacovetto. Landon Iacovetto. He's our new ground superintendent at the Black Canyon Golf Course. You may recognize him from another golf course in town where he's been cutting his teeth, but we're really happy to have him here at the Black Canyon and see him advance in his career. Landon, tell us a little about yourself.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Landon Yacovetto. I was born and raised in Wyoming. I've lived in Montrose for about 11 years now. I've got about 13 years of golf course experience. I've been at Cobble Creek for the last 10 years. I'm excited about the opportunity to work for this awesome community of Montrose. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Great, welcome.
Okay, I get to introduce one of the new guys on our utilities crew, Tanner Levitt. Tanner comes to us from Bayfield, and he's got some GIS background and experience as well. I'll let Tanner tell you a little bit about himself.
I'm Tanner. I moved here from Phoenix about 4 years ago to Bayfield, but I've lived here for 2 months, so I'm pretty new to the area. Just happy to be here working in the utilities department, and it's an essential job. I mean, I think it's important, and it's good to be serving my community, so happy to be here.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Good morning. I got the opportunity to introduce 5 new officers. We'll actually be swearing them in tomorrow at 5 p.m. tomorrow as well. But start with Travis O'Donnell. He came from the Sheriff's Office in Arizona.
Good morning, my name is Travis O'Donnell. Like you said, I came from a sheriff's office in Prescott, Arizona. Been here for about 2 months. Me and my wife actually moved up here, bought a house, and got married and started new jobs from scratch. So learning how that is, but excited to be here. Love all the people I've met so far, so look forward to getting to know all you.
Awesome.
Great. And the next one is Cameron Healy. He came from us from Montrose County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning. I'm Cameron Healy. I came from Montrose County Sheriff's Office. I've been working there for about 5 years and then made the switch over here. I'm super happy to have gotten on to this team and look forward to working with everybody. I've been in Montrose for about 20 years, so got a lot of experience here.
Welcome.
And next, coming to us from Delta PD is Derek Stickney. I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself.
As he said, I'm Derek Stickney. I was a police officer in Delta for about 3 years, just got on over here. Moved out here with my wife about 3 years ago. Got a 3-year-old son and a daughter on the way, and got a little hobby farm that I enjoy. Animals when I'm not dealing with people. So glad to have the opportunity to be here. Thanks.
Welcome aboard.
Next up is Vincent Moffitt. He came from Windsor. The Eastern Slope is a lateral officer as well.
Hi, so I'm Vincent Moffitt. As he said, I came from Windsor PD. I grew up on northern Colorado. I've been in law enforcement for about a little over a decade now, and moved over here back in March with my wife and 2-year-old daughter, and this July we're excited to be bringing in our little boy into the family as well, and we're starting up our own little hobby farm, as it sounds like a lot of other people are doing too. So we're excited to be here and be part of the community.
Welcome.
And last, we have Shad Lindsay. He just graduated from our CMU Grand Junction Academy.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us. Happy to be here. Like you said, I just graduated from CMU, or from the Peace Officer program 2 weeks ago. So I'm really happy to get started. I live in Delta, married, 2 boys, ages 7 and 4. So we're plenty busy, and I'm just grateful for the chance to serve.
Excellent. I'd like to welcome all of you to the city of Montrose, and we look forward to you working here for a long time and having very productive careers. And it sounds like the hobby farm thing, we might have to reconsider our vegetable program. Yeah, bringing fresh vegetables to city council and city staff would be a great thing, just saying. All right, and now, only if we're getting something out of it. Now Terry's going to probably drag you all off to more orientation.
Oh. That's fine. Yeah, thank you, guys.
The boss lady speaks. I want to know if any of them have chickens.
Yeah.
I can appeal to Chuck Horning that way.
Yeah, we're just going to have to take pictures of you with the chickens. All right, we'll give them a second to get clear. our squeaky floor. All right, moving on. We're going to go to discussion items. Discussion item A, Energy Impact Assistance Fund grant application request. And this is by our Community Development Director, Jace Hockwell.
Yeah, good morning, council. This will be a very brief presentation here. I've got no formal PowerPoint, but just wanted to bring this ahead. What we're looking at here is a small grant request through the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, specifically their Energy and Mineral Impact Assistance Fund, EIAF for short. So if I reference that now or in the next meeting, that's what that'll refer to. But just a little bit of background before I jump into kind of the specific grant. But about a month ago, Chris Ottinger brought a grant request that was from the Colorado Department of Local Affairs Housing Planning Grant Program. That was specific for a housing action plan moving forward, as well as adding a strategic growth and water element to our comprehensive plan. We did receive that funding. That was about $60,000 the city received. So what we're doing now is actually piggybacking off of that grant to actually just go after a little bit more here with this grant. So specifically for this grant, we're looking at about a total request of $22,500, and we'd match that with city funds, so a total project cost of about $45,000. This would be specific to a broader comprehensive plan technical update. So as I mentioned, that last grant covers just a strategic growth element. This would actually cover a lot more than that. Typically, you see comprehensive plans updated about every 5 years or so. We're coming up on that 5-year mark now, and we've had a lot of state legislation come through. We've had a lot of code updates and amendments come through over the course of the last few years. So what this will do is really kind of bring everything in line from our code to our comp plan to all our long-range planning documents. So that's what the project would entail here. And again, just kind of piggybacking off of the grant we just received from DOLA, that hopefully we get this one too to kind of capture everything. One thing I want to mention, one thing we're seeing from our standpoint right now, and we will likely see for the foreseeable future, is just a reduction in large-scale grant funding overall. Federal funds have dipped pretty dramatically. A lot of programs have been cut completely or reduced to very small amounts. So we're going after smaller grants this year. That's going to be our priority, more or less, to get in good shape from a long-range planning standpoint to help when that grant funding does hopefully come back in the future, we can really chase some of those bigger grants and be really set up for success moving forward. So that's kind of our general strategy as we see it, at least for the next year or so. From a grant standpoint, we'll continue to chase these and kind of leverage what we can, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council?
Yes, I have two, Jace, please. I see that you're saying that this is to do something that was required under Colorado Senate bill. So is this an unfunded mandate?
So this is in part to capture some of the Colorado Senate bills specifically for the water. Yes, I guess it is, in short, it is an unfunded mandate. So it's not required to be done until 2027. We're just getting out ahead of it early. And again, we're kind of leveraging our grant funding, trying to get out ahead of a lot of these state components early so we can be set up for some success. We've been viewed very favorably by the state by going kind of opting into Prop 123 and being the first municipality to actually adopt an expedited review process for affordable housing. So the state was thrilled to see that from a small jurisdiction like us. We're just trying to get out ahead of things.
Very good. Now, is this already in budget?
It is. So we did budget $25,000 in this year's budget for comprehensive plan updates. Okay. And so we're just kind of leveraging that with grant funding so we can tackle a little bit more than we originally anticipated.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think it always makes good sense to leverage our funding for the local matches and such. I think that's a really wise choice. Any other questions from council? Thank you, Jason. All right, moving on to our next item is the Waterfall Canyon Pond Addition and Waterfall Canyon West Addition Annexation. Senior Planner William Reese.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. I do have a brief presentation if I can steal the screens here. Okay, so these are technically two separate annexation applications, but they are obviously linked, being in the same vicinity and for the same subdivision. However, this does need to be treated as two separate annexations because the land is disconnected. I am going to give a presentation about both of them together today, but when it comes time to make motions and actually vote on these will need to be separate. That being said, we are proposing the same schedule for both annexations. On June 3rd, we plan to bring the resolution to set a hearing date, which we will be proposing for July 15th for that official City Council hearing, as well as a second reading on August 5th. In the meantime, we do plan to bring this to Planning Commission on June 25th for a recommendation on zoning. The first here is the Waterfall Canyon Pond Addition, which is an 8.98 acre site just to the north of the Waterfall Canyon subdivision. This property is it's mostly a pond, which actually serves as the drainage for the stormwater system for the Waterfall Canyon subdivision. Since this is a property that serves a city subdivision, it would be appropriate to annex it into city limits. The property is within the city's urban growth boundary, West Montrose Sanitation District, and City Water Service. And the other site is being called the Waterfall Canyon West Addition, which is a 1.21 acre piece of property that pretty much just consists of Happy Canyon Creek, which is mostly in the subdivision, but a piece of it does bend out to the west there, and as of right now is outside of city limits. A while ago, there was a boundary line adjustment done to bring that little piece onto the same property. That's currently the outlot of the Waterfall Canyon subdivision, and so that outlot is technically both in and outside of city limits. This annexation would just correct that, so the whole property is inside the city limits. This is within the city's urban growth boundary, the city sewer service area, and Chapita water service area. For both of these properties, the applicant has requested the R3 medium density district, which is a residential district allowing for single-family, duplex, attached single household, et cetera, as well as other compatible land uses. The reason for the R3 request on both of them is to match the adjacent zoning that currently exists in the Waterfall Canyon subdivision, as shown in both of these maps here, as well as here. I should note that because of the features of the properties, the aquatic features, if you will, residential development isn't really feasible on either parcel, but the residential zoning would still be the most appropriate zoning in order to be consistent with the adjacent zoning. This here is the annexation map for the Waterfall Canyon Pond Addition. This shows that the property does meet the 1/6 contiguity requirement by the state for all annexations. And then this one is the map for the Waterfall Canyon West Addition. Both of these annexations are under 10 acres in size, and so a formal annexation impact report will not be required. The future land use map of the comprehensive plan shows both of these areas designated as residential mixed density low, indicating that the area is primarily appropriate for single-family development, as well as small amounts of attached residential development. Both properties are shown as being in Growth Area 3, which represents an area that's further away from services and infrastructure that would pose a greater financial burden to service and maintain infrastructure. That being said, I'll note again, it's not realistic to do any kind of large-scale development on these properties, so we don't have concerns regarding the infrastructure with this application. In summary, both properties are eligible for annexations. We do have two separate annexation agreements signed by the applicant. An annexation impact report will not be required, and staff does find that the proposal is consistent with the public health, safety, and welfare, annexation policy, and the comprehensive plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I think Scott's here to answer some questions as well.
I may have just missed this because I was dealing with my computer.
Microphone.
The current zoning on Waterfall Canyon, as it exists today, is all R3?
Part of it is R3A. You can see the almost all of Waterfall Canyon here. Where it's a little bit darker yellow is R3A. The kind of outer rim of it is R3.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thanks, Will. We look forward to seeing this on our schedule in the future. All right, moving on to our next item, general city council discussion. And we're going to turn this over to our city attorney, Chris Dowsey, our proposed charter amendments. As a bit of background, 3 years ago, we started a discussion about necessary additions, corrections, and updates to our charter, things that would basically bring us in compliance with our current best practices and standards across the state. And that discussion at that time, we came up with a few items, and because we have a new council member that had not been involved in that discussion, we wanted to bring that back to council. We're not voting on anything at this moment. What we're doing is just getting an update. So.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yes, so I was not very much involved with this when this was going on. That was Ben Morris, so I was kind of ancillary to this. However, what I've brought and put in the packet, and if everybody would like me to put these up on the screen.
Yes, please.
The red line.
Yes, because we don't have it.
You should have the red line version in your packet.
Where?
It should be in the packet.
If you click on the...
It's not, I went into the packet.
If you go on the Civic Plus one. Okay. Okay, Greg. Civic Plus is not letting her sign in.
Well,
I'll share my computer with you if you want a bit. So
while
we
we're
do have
waiting,
that-
can I ask a question? It's been 3 years, I believe, since we first had this kind of discussion. Who is actually on the Charter Review Committee? Is that?
The mayor pro tem, city attorney, city manager, deputy city manager, and city clerk.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I just wanted to clarify that, just so.
Yep.
through the process, I believe there was an election, so the actual, the title stayed the same, but people shifted. I
People
believe,
shifted
during that
because it
process.
actually, because of the discussion went on over the course of a couple of years, that the office has changed a couple times.
I know in my case, I was not on it initially.
Right.
And then when I became mayor pro tem in place of Barbara Bynum, then I went on it at that
Yeah,
time.
and I was on it at the beginning in the inception of it, but then when I was no longer mayor, then I went off of it. So it kind of shifted across as far as that council representation. So it actually, we got a little bit better, broader view from
Yes.
council representation because of that.
Yes, so there are a few, there are 2 edits that I have made throughout the document that, I believe this was brought up at a work session.
Just for point of clarification, I'm not
Yes.
sorry to interrupt,
Sure.
but just to further that point, regardless of the charter committee, it still would have to come before the full council for approval of the recommendations before it went to the voters. So I just want to make
Correct.
it clear that the entire council
Yes.
is going to weigh in on this before the voters weigh in on it.
Yes, and I think this is the perfect time to address any issues that anyone sees with it. Like I said, this is the red line. Save two separate distinctions that I made before bringing it today. That was brought before council. I believe it was a work session in 2023, October timeframe.
September 18th.
I was close.
Very close.
Close. So the 2 edits, the first edit that I made was in this first section up here, section 7, qualifications. The ACLU back in 2022 sent a letter to pretty much any jurisdiction that had the language that states that a counselor could never have been convicted of a felony. We were going to cross that out. However, the ACLU has backed off, to my knowledge. Aurora put this forth to their voters. It was rejected by their voters. Again, to my knowledge, since that moment in time, the ACLU has not brought anything forth. We did receive that letter, and then just kind of left it. So within the qualifications, that has changed. Additionally, and we'll get into this later, there was talk to remove the residency requirements for the city manager. Bill Bell does not want to leave the city of Montrose. He doesn't want it to be seen as though he has any intention of leaving the city of Montrose. So with that, I've nixed that in this red line. Outside of that, everything, oh, yes.
Yeah, one quick question or a comment on that is one of the things that the two substantive items were the residency requirement for the city manager and residency requirement for the municipal judge. The residency requirement for the city manager we feel is beneficial for the city of Montrose to have the city manager be a resident of the city of Montrose. So we are not changing that.
Correct, and we'll get into the residency requirement for the municipal court judge, and I'll give my viewpoint on that and why I believe we should actually get rid of that requirement, but we'll get into that later. So it really starts right away with Section 7 qualifications, getting rid of he or she. We do this throughout the entire charter. We're not trying to do a they-them thing, more of just putting the title. So it's as broad as you can get. So here it would be the electors as opposed to he or she. And that'll be changes throughout the entire charter. Term of office. So the term of office is cloudy at best. So we do have a very short term of office statement, and then we revert to CRS for everything else. This here is going to clarify that. We do have that authority as a home rule municipality to differentiate from CRS. This, instead of what we have right now, where the at-large would have 3 terms, the at-large could have 4 terms because any counselor would be able to sit for 8 years. So that would be the biggest change here. Any questions on that?
No, I think that was a good change.
Okay, perfect.
And the rationale behind that was that makes it consistent across council, that a counselor serves 8 years.
Right, so if you have, we'll just use Judy Ann as example because she is our at-large. If she decides to run for a district, I don't know when that would come up, but next time you were able to run for a district, you could do a 4-year term there and say it's, you do your 2 years, then a 4-year, you could do an additional 2 years because any council person can then get a max of up to 8 years. This then alleviates the question of, okay, I've done two 2-year terms as the at-large. Can I run for a district seat? The answer at this point is a definitive yes, as opposed to a maybe by different people looking at the CRS the statutes. They're going to give different answers. It is, again, cloudy at best.
But if you were at large, then ran for a district, 4-year district, were elected to that, you could not seek re-election to that district. If you wanted to be re-elected, you'd have to run for at large.
Correct. That would be your only course at that point. Moving on past that, compensation. Again, this is just changing title from his, her to member of office. Same thing with mayor. There is one change, it's more of a clarification. So it's the mayor may receive civil process as opposed to serve civil process. semantics, really. You know, they're being served as opposed to just receiving it. To me, it's just clarification. Again, with the vacancies, getting rid of, I did not get the remove or is a convicted felon or convicted of a felony. So I believe that was being removed in the first portion, so I will just remove that as well. The oaths, there are different sections with oaths. This, we are just removing the titles of others that have oaths in their own section of the charter. So this would be just a deletion and moving. I believe it has the same paragraph for each oath, so we're just making it more specific. So the council procedure, this is going to, again, this is going to change where it's no longer a requirement of the newspaper for notice. We can now put this on our public website. It is in conformance with CRS, the open meetings law. It's just easier for everybody. This is not saying we are going to completely remove our noticing from the newspaper or anything like that. That is still our intent. I believe we also, Lisa, post it, I don't know where we post it now, but I believe it's in the front of City Hall?
Yes, we have a bulletin board outside.
Perfect. So we're not going to be changing any of that. It's more of just giving us a little more flexibility as the open meeting laws allow us to do.
You know,
Yes.
the last time we mentioned something like this, I was opposed to it because I really feel that not all the residents of Montrose are technically computerized and all that stuff. And I'm speaking as myself, for an example, to find some of this stuff on the internet, especially sometimes on the city website, I find it a little difficult, but there are other places that I can look to find it. And I'm just hoping that you say, oh, we're not changing anything, that we kind of stick with that. Because like I said, there are other people in this community that get their information from different locations and not necessarily the city webpage.
And I think we're making that very, very clear. We have absolutely no intention of stopping publishing in physical form. We're still going to put it in the paper. We're still going to post it on our bulletin boards. We're still going to do everything we're currently doing. What we are doing is complying with the CRS, Colorado Revised Statutes, that recognize that we are entering a more digital and technological age, and it gives us the flexibility to allow us to also publish it on a website.
That I understand, but I just feel that if we go and change it on the city charter, that sometime in the future, the other councils or whoever's responsible, the city clerk, might think that, well, this is okay, so this is how we're going to do it, and forget about some of the other people in the community. That's just my feeling, and I just not sure that I could support that change.
Well, I think the one thing it does do for us, when we have the requirement to notify a meeting 24 hours ahead of time, with the paper not being printed on a regular basis, this does give us the ability to get that information out within that 24-hour period and give us a little more flexibility on when we have meetings too. So I think it's a very positive way to go.
And when the charter was written and revised last, the internet was not a thing. So
It was, 2014 was the last charter amendment. So the internet was a thing, but certainly not what it is today.
correct.
You know, I suppose, and I'm not suggesting this, but to address Ed's concern, we don't know what it's going to be like 5 years from now, because we didn't know what it was going to be like in 2014 as it is today. But to perhaps amend it to say that we shall continue to publish in the print media, but if circumstances were to change in the future, to give council the option by ordinance to change that with respect to print media. Because what if the print media doesn't exist 15 years from now?
Right.
With the shuttering of newspapers all across the country, our print media, I hope, stays in place for a long time, but there very well could be no newspaper in Montrose 3 years from now.
And that's a clerical / technical issue that I'd hate to see us have to go to the voters and have an election just to change an outdated provision of the charter that's no longer enforceable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see that.
I will look at this language and amend it as I feel fit to hit on all of this.
Would you be okay with that?
And kind of go from there. Any other comments on that one? Additionally, we've added language in here for a majority of all the members of council once constituting a quorum. So a quorum here would be 3 of you all in order to do business. Additionally, we're adding to enter executive session. There have been questions in the past with regards to how many council members it takes to enter into an executive session. Apparently, there's been differing opinions. This clarifies and makes certain. Questions?
And further clarification on that, the one question was the majority of council members present at a meeting. The majority of council members present can enter an executive session.
Right. So
and that's a big qualifier, because that was a confusion. Was we had a couple of meetings where we had absent members. We wanted to enter into an executive session, and didn't have that clarity about what that meant. And so we dug into what the Colorado Revised Statutes actually said, and that Colorado Revised Statutes specifies that you can have, that it's the majority of members present.
Correct. Yes. So with that, of the 3 members that constitute a quorum, if you want to go into an executive session with only 3 members, you would need 2 members saying, yes, I would like to enter into executive session, because that is the majority of the members present at that meeting.
But that's not exactly the way this reads.
Right. Mm-hmm. So this is
Yes.
now changing it to where
Yes.
at that point, it's going to be all 3 members at that point. No matter what, there will have to be 3 members voting to go into an executive session.
So a majority, all of the members present.
That's the clarification, I think.
That's the word we need to add.
Because the way that revised statutes are, is that if we had only 3 members present, 2 members could vote and go into an executive session.
Perfect. I will make that clarification. You have a question? Yes. Again, this is taken from the last. Okay. So moving along with voting, this is, again, changing he and she, as well as we are allowing for electronic or voice vote, not just voice vote. So obviously we have been doing electronic voting for quite a little bit. It makes things easier, and we'll go on from there. Disposition of ordinances, this has changed. We've gotten rid of the definition of qualified electors because it is kind of redundant, as we have the definition electors. I believe that's later in this. So we're just crossing out qualified there. And then we have added city in front of council just to make it more, to clarify. Terms of office, again, this was done back in, when they originally did this one. I believe this was, I'm guessing 94, since they were talking about November of 95 and 97, as well as 96 and 98. So we're just updating it to current years. Does have 2024 in there. That'll be updated to 26 and 28, if in fact we all want this to get on the ballot. So we will get it up to update for the next election.
Do we even want the date in there? Or does that specify that we have to redo the code or the charter every time?
The reason you do want a year in there is really to just say, okay, District 1 and 2, these are your years, and then Districts 2 and 4, these are your years. And then you build your 4 years out from there. You can do it that way. I haven't given it any thought as to a different way to write it, but we certainly could do that. I have no issue. However, we would like to get that done.
I think the idea of having the years in there, the only, of course, District 3 and 4 would be 28 and 32, and just making that, because it does specify in there, and every 4 years thereafter.
Right.
And the only other caveat is that, do we want to put in language concerning a vacated seat? And is that already in there somewhere else? I think it was.
I believe it is.
Yeah, so, but do we want to put that in this terms of office section? Because currently, if a counselor vacates a seat, then whoever runs for that seat and fills that vacancy then has to run for the next available election.
Right.
Which does kind of throw our schedule off. And in the case of Mr. Reed, he got appointed to a seat, had to run for the election, but then the regular scheduled election came again, and he had to run again.
Yes.
So do we want to clarify that language?
I believe that's in the vacancy language.
Vacancy language? Do we want, but I guess the question is, do we want to put it in here, or the recognition or referencing of that section?
We could certainly do that.
I mean,
I can add a sentence in there.
Yeah.
Should there be a vacancy at any point?
See item.
Section X.
Okay, I think that would be good, because then that references that for future, if somebody's looking at this and they understand what's going on, that there isn't a separate item for it.
Absolutely.
Since you brought it up, back on vacancies, it talks all the reasons that maybe you would stop being a council member, but it never really says that you simply decided you didn't want to do it anymore.
I don't know that we need to specify that. Just if you vacate the seat, you vacate the seat. Why your motivations might be, I don't think is really relevant.
Because we have this long list of why you would vacate.
What section is that?
Vacancies, section 11. It's back from before where we were. I know that might be a rare thing, that someone would just say, hey, I quit.
Well, it has happened. I don't know that I would feel the need to put that in there.
Just something that Chris said a couple of minutes ago made me think that.
I don't think we need to burden ourselves by adding unnecessary stuff in there. We can't guess the motivations. I think for us, what it comes down to is, did they vacate the seat or not? Or were they enforced by, the difference being, if they quit, that's whatever. We don't care what their motivation is.
And
Yeah, but
resigns is in there, so perhaps that covers it in the long list of things. There are things that can happen, clarifying it's recalled, someone passes away, someone becomes incapacitated, someone resigns, ceases to be a resident of the city or ceases to be a resident of the district. So I think it might be covered. Judy Ann, what do you think? Because you could resign for any number of reasons.
I could resign because I don't like Chris anymore.
You could.
That makes sense.
All right, moving on.
The laws governing elections, there's an editor's note in there. We can really remove that. It seemed as though there was a typographical error. Don't believe, elsewhere in the charter, I believe there is language stating that we can add and/or delete clarifying language if we so desire. Not anything that would have to go to a vote, but more of, hey, this was a Scrivener's error. We should change this.
Where were you at looking at? I'm sorry.
Laws governing elections, there's an editor's note that's been deleted.
Oh, yes,
in
yes,
this.
yes.
So.
Yeah, one of the things we had discussed is that there were, the entire thing was full of editor's notes. Editor's notes have no legal bearing or weight. There is no reason for us to have editor's notes. That's just an additional bunch of ink that is confusing, and we're just going to delete all of the editor's notes because they were written by people in 2014.
Why are we not numerical order? I mean, right on this page, I see section 4 and section 7. What happened to sections 5 and 6?
There were no edits.
Okay, so this is an edited.
Yes, so this is the red line version of where there are edits. So any
Okay.
sections that you don't see, and I don't have Article 4 in here, and I will say the reason is we had an expert go through, and I believe that's I think it's Article 4, franchises. We had Ken Feldman, he is an expert in franchise law. He went through it and made edits, so I didn't even have that on here because I am not going to opine on something that the expert did.
You didn't just do away with those sections that are
No,
not in
no,
here.
we are not getting rid of those sections.
Thank you.
These are only the sections that will actually be modified. So procedure, this is recall procedure. We are changing a few things with it. Instead of a 15% total that would need to be signed for in order to have another recall election. At that point, it's expensive to do these things, to have a recall election. You want to be certain that, or at least as certain as possible, to have a requisite amount of electors actually get this together and get it going. You don't want to spend the money if the recall is not going to go. And then the final sentence added there, after one recall election, shall not be another recall against the same council person unless 50%. So again, you don't want just the same group trying to recall one council person and then the city just spending significant amount of money for several recall elections that will just fail.
Yeah, and on this item, there's one that we actually consulted with a bunch of other entities, including other municipalities, on best practice and the most rational and realistic view of it, and that's kind of where we came up with that number.
So moving along, there was just adding city in front of council to make it city council. Article 5, same thing, changing minor language. And then limitation on tax powers. It seems we've gotten rid of having parking meters installed on property owned by the city. This is really just redundant. Same thing with the last sentence there. Nothing contained in this section shall be constructed as prohibiting the imposition of any occupation tax. Now, this language was obviously, or I believe it was implemented before Tabor was a thing. Now with Tabor, any tax that will be implemented on any citizen has to go to a vote of the people. So this language is slightly redundant, but if in fact Tabor is at some point removed from Colorado law, we would probably still want it in there just so we're not taxing people without their consent. Municipal borrowing, getting rid of qualified in front of electors. Same thing with the next section. Courts and legal services. Okay, so this is what we were discussing earlier with residency requirements. For the municipal judge, the municipal judge position is a part-time position. To have a residency requirement of them being a resident of the County of Montrose as it sits is interesting, I would say, since it is probably a 2-day-a-week position, a Wednesday, Thursday, with court. Something that I noted is you could have a very well-qualified candidate in Delta, living in Delta. That is a 30-minute drive. And you could have a lesser qualified person out in Nucla, Natarita area. And I don't know the time on that because I have not driven out that way, but I believe it's well over an hour. So you would, if those were your two candidates, you're hamstrung in your choice to then pick the person who is not as qualified, but they are in fact a resident of the County of Montrose. And we'll just say for this hypothetical that I've thrown out there, that the person in Delta will not, they refuse to move into the county for this position. So that's why that is actually being proposed as deleted.
The one item I wanted to mention is an item on section 1, item D, the court personnel is highlighted. And the reason that is highlighted is because the actual administration of court personnel is not the responsibility of the municipal judge. It is the responsibility of the city manager's office and delegated staff. So we striking that?
We can certainly strike that. Because that is that how procedure is these days.
Well, you mentioned the court judge at the time. I think, didn't we figure like 20 hours a week was what we were looking at for that job?
Yes, about 20 hours. I believe it used to be 16, but I believe it's now.
So again, by getting somebody who maybe doesn't live in the county,
Microphone.
by getting someone that doesn't live in the county, but they're close, versus somebody that lives clear on the other end of the county, to me, it makes good sense that what we're really after is a qualified person with a state license.
Correct.
And in my opinion, I don't see that as making a concern of why it should be somebody in the county. I think that's just hamstringing us on being able to get the best person for the job.
And we researched other municipalities as well, and this is very common, that municipalities don't have a residency requirement for their municipal judge. So we're not the only ones who are doing this, and especially given Montrose's location central to a lot of other communities, there are many people who'd be qualified to be a municipal judge who work in Montrose frequently, understand our community, work with constituents, but don't reside in the city limits. So these were all of the discussions that were had in order to propose this change to you all.
Another aspect about the benefit of this is that since the job is only 20 hours a week, that if the person is also fulfilling a municipal court judgeship in some other municipality, that it gives them the option of actually getting enough hours to make themselves financially stable.
I think the other thing we've seen too is, particularly if they're just starting out in this, and they haven't done that somewhere else before. In the recent past, I've seen where those folks are spending several hours more beyond the 20 until they're kind of on board. So I think the availability and accessibility is very important.
All right. Moving on.
I believe the next section, the salary or compensation to be fixed by resolution of city council from time to time, that's generally done by motion at this point. So we can cross that out and do by motion. Moving on to city attorney, the changes here, it clarifies confusing language or conflicting language, where this then puts any person in the city attorney's office underneath the city attorney. Right now, as it sits, it's kind of conflicting where people in the city attorney's office are under the city attorney, but also subject to the city management office. It conflicts. So this clarifies and puts under one office, but any employee of the city attorney's office is subject to the code, charter, and personnel policies. And again, the compensation changing from resolution to motion. Oath of office is just switching titles from taking out whoever is not in that section. So city manager section, again, I unilaterally took out the residency requirement, or the taking out of the residency requirement. This was at the request of Bill Bell. Again, he wants to be a resident of the city of Montrose. He does not want to move out of the city of Montrose, and doesn't want it to say otherwise.
We have a punctuation error there too.
Where's that?
The paragraph above the editor's note. The city manager shall reside within the city, period. No counselor shall be appointed city manager. Did you find me? Okay.
Thank you.
Where you at, Judy?
Oh, just after city, on the definition of tenure of office, there is no punctuation between city and no city council, or no counselor.
Again, most of these changes are the clarification and changing of his or her to the title of the person. And I will just move past all of those. Again, the oath of office, we put the language in there for anyone that actually is in that section as opposed to elsewhere. The initiative and referendum, there is a 14-day window. This gives a bigger window rather than the 10-day window for the initiative or referendum petition. And that is everything. So most of the changes are really the getting rid of the his, her, adding that to a title. We're getting rid of the qualified elector, since you have two definitions that mean the same thing. That's, again, just confusing. Why are you using one as opposed to the other?
Department of a Redundancy Department.
There you are. So any questions, comments, concerns? I'm happy to make the edits that we have discussed so far. We have, and Lisa, remind me of the timeline. I believe the resolution to give intent to the county, is that July?
It's 100 days before Election Day. Do you mind handing Lisa? Sorry. It is 100 days before Election Day. Election Day is, I believe, November 4th. So it actually boils down to Thursday, July 24th, that we would have to have action taken to notify the county clerk.
Of our intent.
Of our intent to put a question on the ballot.
And then we have to provide the language for the ballot issue by September
4th. Yes.
So we have
would
plenty of time.
Yeah, we would either have to act in late August or very early September on the ballot question itself.
Yeah, our intent is to have our attorney start working on that language for that as soon as we've kind of given the head nod.
Yeah, so additionally, something I want to bring up is how many questions do we want to have? Because we could do this as a wholesale one question change for everything, all the way down to a question for each section. I think it would be kind of silly to have a question for each section just because we're making the same changes in a lot of the sections. So I think maybe a hybrid approach of, okay, changing the he, her, his, she to titles as one question, and then any substantive changes thereafter as a secondary question. That's one approach, or each individual substantive one, we could put those into sections. However you want those questions to read, I'm happy to draft as.
My perspective on that is that since we don't have any really contentious changes, all the changes are, other than the residency requirement for the municipal judge, are pretty much housekeeping. The only substantive one is the changing for the residency required for the district judge, or I mean for the municipal judge. So to me, I would be okay with doing it as one issue.
Yeah, I believe that. Economically, I think knowledge-wise, that's pretty good.
Sure.
All right. All right. Any other
Yeah,
comments?
keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Perfect.
All right. Any other comments or questions for our city attorney?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Well, I'm talking to Chris, and I know he's not stupid, so I'm not going to add that. Very intelligent young man. All right. With that, we'll move on. Is there any other general city council discussion? I have one item, and I'm going to kind of mention that again probably tomorrow night, is that our Mayor Pro Tem and I had the great honor of going over for the Dana Crawford Award, and our very own Rathbone Hotel was awarded the prestigious Dana Crawford Award over in Denver. And it was a really great event, and we felt that Montrose is representing well for our economic development and our revitalization efforts. That oh my gosh, I'm going to get the name wrong. The history or
Colorado Preservation, Inc.
Colorado Preservation, Inc. That they recognize programs and projects throughout the state of Colorado that do their best to incorporate the kind of amended uses, but the recognition of that, sustaining of the historical preservation and modeling. So it was really great. It was a good event, and we had a good time.
And we even took Ann with us.
That was what made it a good time.
Absolutely.
So much more fun. So much more fun.
She
All right,
was-
if there are no other city council comments or discussion, then we'll open it for staff comments. And I see Mr. Murphy is,
I have a feeling. to get
yeah,
this thing-
he's here, he's ready.
Everybody else go first.
Are there any other staff comments? Very good. Mr. Murphy.
Just quick construction updates. So Ogden's open. Oak Grove in front of Walgreens is reopened. Main Street, they're kind of pivoting a little bit to go work on East Main. So you'll see that, because the same contractor doing East Main and West Main, you'll see some work start at Mesa. The reason they're pivoting over there is to try and get some of that storm work done ahead of the Moving Montrose Forward contract, which does some more work going down Mesa, and so they have to get its tie-ins complete. So they're all working together really well to kind of coordinate and keep everybody moving. But you'll see West Main kind of button up on that south side there, and yeah, probably put some resources in East Main before they open up. The next place they'll go is they'll still work on West Main west of Grand, but they'll go to the north side. So they aren't going to go east of Grand, so between Grand and Sealig, until West Main is essentially nearly complete, with the exception of the patching. But it's coming together really nice. If anybody wants to take a tour, but help yourself. It's portions of the sidewalk are open, so or give me a call.
You didn't say you'd take us on a guided tour. You
If
said
we can do that too.
Help yourself, right, just go do it.
Either one's fine. The other piece, usually about this time of year, we do a water resource update. Have that scheduled for the next work session. It's been somewhat fluid with some of these late season storms of how things are looking, but generally everything's looking generally lean, but for us, okay. But I'll have more data to support that, and we'll have our typical discussion next work session.
So our snow melts are
enough to keep Ridgeway full, which keeps us in water and not too worried. You know, the larger Colorado system has been hurting, and this year will be another really bad year. I think inflows into Lake Powell are forecast to be 55% of normal, which is not a good number for an extremely taxed system, but we'll we'll go over all that as well. And the state, intra-state negotiations aren't moving too fast either, despite deadlines. But some more to come. Just want to let you know that that was coming in case you get asked about it. It's my favorite thing to do in the spring, for sure.
Watch the ditches. All right, are there any other updates for us?
I do have a question. How's our construction work coming on the new location for Public Works?
Excellent. They're just about done with the common fill, and they brought in actually they have 3 rollers on site now because they were kind of roller limited for a while. We have a double drum on site now. And so the fill operation for the structural will be picking up steam. So I think even with the change order surface, which we'll talk about tomorrow again, it's looking to be, I don't want to jinx it, but probably 4th of July, which is well ahead of the September that was anticipated. And Jim, some good news on the financing. So things are coming together.
I might add to that on the financing, because I was still mayor at the time the council finally approved it. Was it Thursday or Friday that I did sign all the financing documents, so all that is in place.
Talk about bonds.
Yes, please. Our certificates of participation.
Yep, so COP bonds were sold last week. So as part of the process they go through, and they are actually presented. We got our rating, and then they were sold last week. The rating kind of gives investors the knowledge of who they're investing with and how much they can expect in returns. We scored very well. We made some last minute adjustments in the types of bonds that were issued, but ultimately everything came out excellent and in our favor. We ended up with a very low interest rate long term, which helped lower our annual payment that we'll see for the next 30 years. All the bonds were sold, and money has been received. Closing on that is scheduled for late this week. So yeah, all good news, and right in line with the budget that we had projected as far as the borrowing amount and the premiums received with the borrowing, as well as the interest that we're anticipating as part of that borrowing sitting in our bank account. So yeah, all on track and right in line with the projections we had put into our budget initially early on in the project. And so aligning well at this point, starting to come together. So closing end of the week. Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
What is that interest rate that we got?
It was just over 4. I don't know if Shani remembers. Shani, do you remember the interest rate? It was 4.5. Yeah, something like that. Don't quote me, but it was close to 4.5, which was very good. So again, we had options of higher or lower interest rate. You'd get higher premiums with a higher interest rate, increasing your annual payment for the rest of the term. And we elected to go with the lower interest rate to keep that payment as low as we could long term. Because it helped our budget, and we were on budget, receiving a lower amount of premium up front. So, yeah, generally good news. Everything came in at or under what we expected. So, yeah.
I'm just kind of curious on the sale of the COPs, how that's progressing.
So that is what they sold those.
They sold
last
all
week.
of it.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. They had.
That was because I remember when we did the COPs for our public safety building.
Yep.
That they sold remarkably quickly.
That was the same here. So
Yeah.
it was only one day, and I think only even a portion of that day is what they actually sold those in. There were more buyers than there were bonds available, by almost double. So they sold them quickly. Seemed like a matter of hours, so they were gone. And there was local participation in that as well. So there were agencies local that purchased bonds similar to the public safety complex. So yeah, very, very good news all around.
Outstanding. Are there any other staff reports or updates for us? And if not, then thank you, everybody, and we are adjourned.